Sugar causes diabetes? The truth they never told you. In today's video, I'll address the crucial question of whether excessive sugar consumption can cause diabetes. And I'll also explore the reverse possibility. What about those who consume no sugar at all? Let's unravel this mystery and alert you to an important issue. Olivia, in her 60s and overweight, recently left the doctor's office with a diabetes diagnosis. Surprisingly, she was never a fan of sweets and avoided chocolate throughout her life. How can someone who always maintained a healthy diet develop diabetes? Before sharing Olivia's story, it's crucial to understand that diabetes is not a one-size-fits-all condition. Throughout the history of medicine, various types of diabetes have been identified. However, a common factor among them all is elevated blood sugar levels, especially glucose, which plays the role of an energy source. One could argue that glucose is an essential source of energy, leading to the assumption that having a bit more glucose wouldn't hurt. However, the reality is quite different. When blood glucose levels remain consistently elevated, damage to blood vessels and nerves can occur over time. These damages may result in complications in the kidneys, eyes, heart, and other organs. Now, returning to Olivia's story, I'll reveal what happened to her and discuss how different forms of diabetes can manifest, even in individuals who avoid excessive sugar consumption. Furthermore, glucose tends to accumulate in the blood rather than being utilized by cells, resulting in symptoms such as physical fatigue, dry mouth, excessive thirst, and frequent urination, which are considered classic signs of the disease. In uncontrolled cases, a diabetic's glucose can reach levels up to 10 times higher than the safe limit, triggering severe situations such as coma and even death. Diabetes is a serious condition, and the widespread concern about it is entirely justified. Despite diabetes being associated with elevated blood glucose, it's important to highlight that there are various causes for this phenomenon, resulting in a wide variety of diabetes types. The first one is type 1 diabetes, which typically manifests during childhood and adolescence. This type has an autoimmune origin, where the body attacks the pancreas cells responsible for producing insulin, the hormone that facilitates the entry of glucose into cells. Without adequate insulin presence, glucose remains in circulation, potentially causing toxicity to organs. The exact cause of type 1 diabetes is still uncertain and may involve genetic predispositions, making prevention impossible, unlike Olivia's case. Olivia, our disgruntled patient, has reduced chances of having monogenic diabetes, a rare type influenced by genetics, due to her advanced age. The probability of her having gestational diabetes is nil, since it's a transient condition that affects only pregnant women. In addition to these forms of diabetes, there is type 2 diabetes, responsible for 95% of all diabetes cases worldwide. In this type, the pancreas cells can still produce insulin, but there is resistance to its action in the body. This is a scenario where the condition can be influenced by factors such as lifestyle and genetic predisposition. The impaired communication between insulin and glucose-utilizing cells represents a crucial malfunction in the body's operation. In this scenario, glucose fails to be properly taken up and ends up accumulating in the circulation. It's as if insulin, responsible for facilitating the absorption of glucose by cells, is shouting louder and louder for absorption to occur. But the cells seem not to hear the message, resulting in the inability to perform this fundamental process. Consequently, over time, the pancreas intensifies insulin production in an attempt to deal with the accumulated glucose. However, if this condition persists, pancreatic cells may become exhausted, leading to even the cessation of insulin production. Unlike type 1 diabetes, gestational diabetes, and other types with defined genetic causes, type 2 diabetes develops over the course of life. Olivia, taken aback by the diabetes diagnosis, was unaware that various risk factors can worsen the communication between insulin and cells. The question of whether sugar is involved, or is the direct cause of diabetes in this case, is a legitimate one. There are various proposed mechanisms to explain why insulin fails to communicate with cells during glucose absorption, and one of these mechanisms is related to a key risk factor for type 2 diabetes: obesity. Obesity occurs when the body receives more nutrients than it needs for an extended period, leading the organism to store these nutrients in the form of fat, seemingly without limits to this storage. The challenge arises when fat cells need to adapt to accommodate the high amount of stored fat. They multiply and increase in size, resulting initially in overweight and later in obesity. However, in certain areas of the body, fat cells can become so packed that they start sending warning signals, indicating that something is amiss. This alert is issued through the release of inflammatory mediators. It's interesting to note that as fat cells increase in size, they generate an inflammatory state in the body, an unnatural phenomenon. The immune system, located around these fat cells, reacts defensively. Immune cells take an attacking stance to protect and repair damaged fat cells, releasing inflammatory mediators to recruit additional assistance from other immune cells. The connection with diabetes becomes evident at this point. The inflammatory mediators released by fat cells and the immune system interact with the site where insulin should bind on cells, hindering the propagation of the insulin signal and, consequently, the proper utilization of glucose. This inflammatory response, occurring during overweight and obesity, is often silent, not causing visible symptoms, leading many people to neglect weight management, as their tests often remain within normal ranges. The crucial issue lies in the fact that many people don't realize the significant impact of body fat accumulation on blood glucose levels. According to data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, nearly 90% of adults in the United States diagnosed with diabetes are considered overweight or obese. In addition to obesity, other factors that increase the risk of type 2 diabetes include hypertension, high cholesterol, a family history of diabetes in first-degree relatives, and the use of certain medications, such as corticosteroids. Olivia, our patient, despite not being a fan of sweets, had the habit of overeating and never paid attention to quantities. Overweight throughout her life, she recently developed the habit of frequently consuming fast food, contributing to an increase in her body fat percentage. This choice, combined with a lack of physical activity, exacerbated the inflammatory state generated by excess weight, likely leading to the development of diabetes. Therefore, in Olivia's case, diabetes may have developed as a consequence of overweight, even without excessive sweet consumption. Sugar was not the triggering factor in her case. The question of whether those who consume a lot of sugar are at a higher risk of diabetes is valid. If Olivia, in addition to excessive calorie intake and sedentary behavior, also regularly consumed sweets, the likelihood of developing diabetes could be even higher. The answer to these questions will be addressed later. Let's now explore whether high sugar consumption indeed increases the risk of developing diabetes or accelerates the onset of the disease. Sugars are sweet-tasting carbohydrates, such as glucose, fructose, and sucrose, terms you've likely heard before. These sugars are present in various foods, including table sugar, fruits, processed products, teas, and juices. Because they are rapidly absorbed and do not stay in the stomach and intestines for long, they do not provide lasting satiety, making it easy to overconsume, especially due to their pleasant taste. It's true that excessive sugar consumption can increase blood glucose levels, as most sugars are converted into glucose. However, a healthy and physically active organism doesn't face significant issues in utilizing excess glucose as an energy source. If sugar consumption is aligned with the body's demand for glucose, it won't lead to the development of diabetes. This perspective already contradicts the idea that sugar is the direct cause of diabetes. As long as the body remains healthy, it can handle the temporary increase in glucose by transporting it into cells, where it is used as an energy source. Although sugar is not the direct cause of diabetes, excessive consumption can indeed represent a risk factor for the development of the disease. Overindulging in sugar over months or years can lead to the early onset of diabetes. This is because sugar contains calories, and excess glucose can be converted into fat. If you have the habit of consuming coffee, sugary sodas, tea, juices, and sweets after each meal, you are likely ingesting a considerable amount of calories. Moreover, this practice can condition your palate to the sweet taste, making it challenging to reduce portions. Excessive sugar consumption can lead to fat accumulation beyond healthy limits, especially when combined with a diet rich in calorie-dense foods and a lack of physical activity, creating a set of factors that increase the risk of diabetes. A suggestion to assess whether you are overindulging in sugar is to keep a record of your daily meals, including all servings of candies, snacks, and beverages, often overlooked. This will help identify sugar-rich foods that may go unnoticed. To gradually reduce sugar consumption, consider lowering the amount used to sweeten drinks and replacing processed foods and sweets and snacks with healthier options, such as fruits, sandwiches, or yogurt. If you have identified what you need to do to improve your eating habits, but still face difficulties organizing yourself, it is advisable to seek guidance from a nutrition professional. This professional can help develop healthier habits, providing support and personalized guidance. While it is not guaranteed that excessive sweet consumption will necessarily lead to diabetes, it is crucial to recognize that this eating pattern is not healthy, and the guidance of a nutritionist can be valuable. Remember, it's okay to enjoy a sweet treat from time to time, but it's important to maintain a balance and adopt eating habits that promote your health. Until the next video, goodbye.